Welcome. Tonight, let your thoughts drift far across the narrow sea to the beating heart of Westeros, King's Landing. The warm breeze rolls in from Blackwater Bay, rich with the scent of salt, kelp, and the faint smoke of dying torches. A gull cries once, then silence returns. Behind the high stone walls of the city, the noise of the day has finally faded. King's Landing exhales. Tonight, the capital sleeps. Its winding streets, quiet now, carry only the soft shuffle of a lone guard's boots, the creak of shutters catching the wind. Markets are empty, lanterns flicker low, and from the heights of Aegon's Hill to the crumbling alleys of Flea Bottom, all is still. You may notice it, the soft clang of a bell in the distance, the hush of waves against the docks, the gentle groan of old beams in the Red Keep, settling into dreams of their own. The scent of the city lingers in the air. Baked stone, burnt oak, boiled leather, and something older still, like secrets sealed in stone. It is a city built on ash and ambition, and as the moonlight stretches across the rooftops, you can almost feel the weight of centuries resting on its bones. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm, slow history stories that help you unwind and fall asleep, consider subscribing to The Drowsy Historian. New sleepy journeys from the past, every week, all designed just for you. So now, with your eyes growing heavier, your breath slower, your body softening into stillness, let me share with you 18 strange, unsettling, and often forgotten facts about King's Landing. Fact 1. The forgotten tunnels beneath the Red Keep. Beneath the towering crimson walls of the Red Keep, beneath the stone courtyards where kings once walked, beneath the very bedchambers and council halls where history whispered and roared, there lies a web of tunnels, ancient, forgotten, and mostly unknown. They were carved, it is said, during the reign of Maegor the Cruel, a king whose very name tightens the chest and darkens the flame. Maegor, with his great black helm and cruel smile, demanded these tunnels be dug not by craftsmen, but by slaves and sorcerers and silence. No plans were drawn, no records kept. Those who labored beneath the keep were never seen again. It is said they were buried within the walls they carved. The result? A network of passageways that even the builders of the Red Keep did not fully understand. Some paths were wide enough for 3 men to walk abreast, others so narrow a child might scrape their shoulders against rough-cut stone. Some twisted in endless spirals downward, others led to chambers without doors or light, and some, so the stories claim, end abruptly in a blank wall that pulses softly like breath. Centuries passed, and the memory of these tunnels drifted from fact to rumor, from map to myth. But now and then, quietly, they returned to the surface. A scribe in King Viserys' court once claimed he saw a man disappear into the wall behind a wine rack, only to reappear 3 days later in the Queen's solar, covered in dust, lips stitched shut. He never wrote again. A maid, too, from the days of Ares, swore she heard voices beneath the floorboards of the Tower of the Hand. Gentle voices, speaking Valyrian, though no one else in her family knew the tongue. When they investigated, there was nothing, only cold stone. She never returned to the tower. And then there are the rat catchers. In the quiet hours of night, when even the guards doze with their helmets tilted forward, the rat catchers of the Red Keep begin their rounds. Most know to avoid the lower halls, where shadows stretch too long and echoes don't come back. But some, the newer ones, the bold ones, go deeper. One such catcher, a boy named Taris, disappeared for 2 weeks. When he returned, he spoke of a door carved with 7 faces. None the same, none familiar. He said he heard chanting, saw torchlight without flame, and that something followed him back. He would wake screaming, clutching at his chest, convinced someone was whispering into his lungs. His hair turned white before his 16th name day. Taris does not speak now, only rocks gently on his heels and hums a tune no one knows. The tunnels, the real tunnels, are said to be alive in some way, shifting, breathing, growing. Some believe Maegor, in his madness, had the passageways built not only for escape, but for eavesdropping, for punishment, for power. Others say the tunnels were there before the keep was built, remnants of something older, deeper, and not meant to be disturbed. It's possible that more than a few wars were decided by those tunnels. Whispers that never made it to the throne. Secrets passed in the dark. Some say Varys, the spider himself, once used them to slip from council meetings straight into chambers he was never meant to enter. That he had a map, drawn in invisible ink, that burned away the moment he read it. There are stories, always stories, of doors in cellars that should not be there, of footsteps when no one walks, of cold hands on the neck while sleeping in the lower levels of the keep. Some believe that the tunnels stretch beyond the castle, far beyond, that they reach under the city, beneath the September of Baelor, under the ruins of Maegor's Holdfast, and even into the black cells, where the worst of the worst are forgotten. The jailers deny it. Of course they do. But one drunken confession, from a half-mad turnkey on his last night alive, claimed he followed a whisper down a crack in the wall, that he walked for hours, days maybe, and found a stair that never stopped descending. He returned with a coin in his hand, old and Valyrian, so smooth with age it had no face. He was found the next morning in his bunk, smiling, and gone. So if you ever visit the Red Keep, if you find yourself wandering the lower halls in search of a quiet place, if you hear something behind the walls, a faint voice, a breath, a rustling robe on stone, don't follow it, don't knock, and whatever you do, don't open any door you don't remember being there before. For beneath the Red Keep, the stone remembers, and not all who enter return. Fact 2. The bell that rang without wind. It happened on a night much like this one, still heavy with heat, the kind of summer evening where the air feels thick, and even the shadows sweat. The moon hung low, bloated and pale, casting long silver slashes across the slate roofs of King's Landing. All was quiet. Then the bell rang. Not a warning bell, not the bright, eager chime of a wedding or coronation. No, this was the deep, ponderous toll of Maegor's bell, the one that hangs in the highest tower of the Red Keep, so old its iron sides are streaked with rust and dragon soot. A bell that had not rung in years, and was not meant to ring at all that night. It rang once, slow and long, a sound so heavy it made the dogs whimper and the birds rise from the eaves in a panic of feathers. Then it rang again, and again, 3 times, each toll slower, deeper, as if pulled by an invisible hand. The strange thing, stranger than a bell ringing unbidden, was the air itself. There was no wind. The ropes used to ring Maegor's bell are massive, thick as a man's arm, pulled by a team of bellmen using counterweights and levers. No lone person could ring it alone, not even Ser Gregor in his prime, and yet, no bellman was present. The tower was empty, the room locked, the ropes untouched. When the guards arrived moments later, sweating and breathless, they found nothing. Only the bell, still swaying slightly, groaning as it settled back to silence. The dust on the floor was undisturbed. The windows were sealed. No sign of entry, no footprints, and yet, the bell had rung. The Grand Maester at the time, Melos, recorded the incident in his personal journal. He believed it to be a tremor, a quake, perhaps, or some strange echo from Blackwater Bay. But the city had felt no tremor. No other bell had sounded. No wall had cracked. Others whispered that the bell rang not for the living, but for the dead. In the days following the incident, 3 servants in the Red Keep passed suddenly in their sleep. No wounds, no poison, no illness, just stillness, quiet, and gone. One was the old washerwoman, Rena, who'd served since the reign of Jaehaerys. Another, a boy who ran errands for the kitchens. The third, a guard who had once claimed to have seen Rhaenyra's ghost. Each of their bodies was found near a window, open to the tower where the bell had tolled. Coincidence? Perhaps. But then stories began to surface. Tales whispered over tankards and hearths. A drunkard in Flea Bottom swore he saw a pale figure standing in the belfry that night, long hair drifting as if underwater, eyes fixed on the city. He claimed it watched him, even from such height. that he could feel its stare pressing down like wet cloth. He left the city the next day and was never seen again. Asepta, half mad with age, insisted the bell rang to warn the seven that something beneath the keep had awakened. She said the tone of the toll was wrong. Too deep, too slow. The sound of mourning, not warning. She claimed she heard words in the ringing, something in old tongue, older even than the Undulls. She would not repeat them. And there's the tale of Lord Terrelin, who, weeks after the bell incident, hosted a feast within view of the tower. As the sun dipped low and the wine ran high, he raised his goblet and made jest of the haunted bell. He mocked the fear, called it peasant nonsense. That very night, lightning struck the tower. Not once, but 3 times. The sky had been clear, the stars out, no clouds, no storm, just 3 silent flashes. And then smoke. The top of the tower blackened. The bell itself was untouched, but refused to ring again, even when pulled. Took weeks of work to free it. And still, its tone was never quite the same. Some now believe the bell rings only when no one listens, that it rings to itself, in memory or mourning. Others say it is a relic tied to something deeper beneath the keep. A warning bell, perhaps, meant to hold something back, or to alert the city should that ward ever break. And some, the oldest, quietest maesters, say it was the ghost of Maegor himself, that in his restless fury, he seeks to remind the realm he still watches, that his red keep, his tower, his bell will not be forgotten. To this day, the tower remains locked at night. Bellmen are forbidden to climb it after sunset. Guards do not patrol its base unless ordered. And even then, they avoid looking up, because they say, on quiet nights, if you close your eyes near the eastern courtyard, you can hear the faint sound of iron groaning above. No wind, no rope, no hand, just the bell. Remembering. Fact 3. The shadow in Flea Bottom. Down in the twisted gut of King's Landing, where the stone streets melt into mud, and lanterns flicker out for good, there lies a place locals speak of only in whispers, Flea Bottom. It is the belly of the city, where the broken go to disappear, and the forgotten live on scraps. The air smells of boiled cabbage, wet straw, and sometimes blood. Rats do not run here, they rule. The buildings lean like drunkards, roofs sag, doors hang from one hinge, and the darkness always arrives early. But among the stink and soot and hunger lives a different kind of fear. They call it the shadow. Some say it's a man, hooded, tall, thin as a broom. Others claim it's not a man at all, but a wraith, or worse, something that never lived. The stories begin the same. A beggar, a thief, a child out too late. A flicker of movement down an alley. A chill though the air is hot. And then, silence. The lucky ones run. The others vanish. Old Marnie, who runs a soup pot near Slum Street, says she saw it once. Tall and still, standing between 2 wagons that weren't there the moment before. She blinked, and it was gone. But she swears the shadow was darker than the night itself. Not black, but hollow. A brewer named Torrik claims he chased it once. Thought it was a boy stealing from his cart. He followed it down a crooked lane near Southelly Row. But the alley kept turning, growing tighter, too tight, until the walls scraped his shoulders, until he couldn't move, couldn't turn around. And behind him, soft breathing. He never saw the face, but he still dreams of that breath. Warm, slow, right against his ear. Torrik does not go out after dusk anymore. A Septon's apprentice once claimed the shadow was punishment, that the 7 sent it to Flea Bottom to keep the wicked afraid. A dark shepherd for the sheep who stray, he called it. He was found days later, his mouth sewn shut with horsehair, eyes wide open, staring toward the alley where he last preached. Children tell stories of the shadow too, though theirs are half games, half prayers. They say if you leave a bowl of onion stew near the crumbling fountain on Beggar's Run, the shadow won't follow you that night. They say it hates onions, or loves them. No one agrees. One child, Lana, a girl no older than 8, claimed she spoke to it. Said it asked her name in a voice made of wind and rope. When asked what she answered, she only smiled and said, "I didn't. It already knew. There is a pattern to the sightings. Always near the old wash house. Always after the 10th bell. Always when the moon is just past full. Some swear it walks only when someone lies, that it feeds on deceit. Others believe it guards something beneath the streets, an ancient pit, or a buried temple. A blind man who sells lucky charms near the ragman's gate says the shadow isn't evil, only hungry, that it waits for those who carry too much guilt, that it takes memories, not flesh. It leaves you alive, he says, but hollow. You forget what made you sad and what made you kind. Still, people disappear. Not every day, not even every week, but over the years, the names add up. Galen the Pick, Mossy Burr, the twins from Tanner's Bend, the midwife who knew too much, the boy who saw a hand die, all gone. No bodies, no blood, just a coat left behind, or a pair of shoes, or a single handprint, darker than oil, smudged on a wall that no longer stands. The city watch no longer patrols certain alleys. Maps quietly omit 4 streets near the southern edge. Subsidence, they say, unsafe, but the people of Flea Bottom know. They build their fires high. They hang garlic in windows. And after the 9th bell, they do not linger near shadows that move when they shouldn't. And yet, it never leaves Flea Bottom. It does not climb the hill. It does not enter the Red Keep. It does not haunt lords or knights or kings. It belongs to the forgotten. It walks where hope is thin and light is rare. And perhaps, in some strange way, the shadow is part of Flea Bottom's soul. As old as the bricks, as stubborn as the rats, a secret that keeps the darkest place in the city just dark enough. So, if ever you find yourself lost in the lower streets of King's Landing, and the lanterns seem dimmer than they should be, and the alleys twist in ways they didn't before, do not run, do not speak, and whatever you do, do not lie, because the shadow is always listening. Fact 4. The wall that bleeds when it rains. On the far side of King's Landing's docks, just past the fishmongers and tanneries, where the air carries the sharp sting of salt and smoke, there is a wall. You would not notice it, not at first. It hides behind stacked barrels, piles of netting, and crates gone soft with sea rot. But when the rain comes, that wall bleeds. The first thing one notices is the color. Not the usual drip of rust-tinted water, but something darker, thicker, deep crimson, slow-moving, pooling in quiet rivulets along the stones. It flows not from a single crack or broken pipe, but from the very seams between the bricks. No matter how heavy or light the storm, the result is the same. Once the first drops fall, the wall weeps. Sailors call it the widow's wall. Fishwives mutter prayers when passing. Dockhands, hard men with harder hands, go out of their way to avoid touching it. Some even claim the wall remembers and marks those who do. Its origin is unknown. Some say it was once part of an older building, perhaps a slaughterhouse or a butcher's guild burned long ago. Others say it stands above an old crypt, that something was buried there after the defiance of Duskendale, or even earlier, before the city had cobblestones, before it had walls at all. There are records, faded and water-damaged, of an old warehouse that stood there 100 years ago. It belonged to a minor house, name long forgotten, whose crest bore a red knife on black. The building caught fire one night. Some say it was lightning, others blame rebels. When the flames were finally put out, only the wall remained, and from then on, whenever it rained, it bled. The Citadel once sent a maester to investigate. Maester Clavin, stern, methodical, skeptical. He brought glass vials, clean cloth, and a wagon of scrolls. He left after 3 days, refused to speak of what he found, burned his notes, locked himself in a tower, and never again worked outside the Citadel's walls. His beard turned white in a month, and when he died, the only thing found in his chambers was a drawing of the wall, sketched in charcoal with 3 words beneath it. It watches back. Some believe the blood is not blood at all, that it's some kind of moss, or sea mold reacting to moisture. But those who have touched it say it is warm, sticky, metallic, like blood freshly spilled. And it doesn't stop. When rains last for hours, the wall runs thick, enough to puddle at the base, enough to stain boots. It dries quickly once the storm ends, leaving only faint streaks. But the smell lingers, not foul exactly, more like old iron, like a forge long cooled. Children, daring one another, have tried to press their hands against the wall during a downpour. They laugh, run away squealing, but some come back quiet. One boy, 7 years old, spoke no words for a full season after doing so, just sat, staring out at the rain. Another child, a girl named Peta, was found tracing her finger along the bleeding seam, again and again, even as the rain soaked her dress and hair. When asked what she was doing, she replied, "It's writing back. A few brave or foolish men have tried to dig near the wall. Once, each time something has gone wrong. Pick shatters, the spade bends. One man slipped and broke both legs, though the stones were dry. Another vanished, leaving behind only a trail of red footprints leading back toward the wall. No one speaks of that attempt anymore. Some say the wall is a punishment, that during Maegor's reign, traitors were sealed inside it, not executed, not burned, but entombed, brick by brick, still breathing, that their blood seeps out in protest, in warning. Others believe it is a mouth, a gate, that during the storm, it feeds, slowly, patiently. One dockmaster claimed he saw a rat try to climb the wall once, during a storm. It slipped, fell, and then vanished as the wall's flow thickened. When he looked closer, there was no trace, not even bones. The most unsettling rumor is the quietest one, passed from mother to daughter, whispered behind curtains, that if you touch the bleeding seam and speak a name, that person will dream of drowning. Every night, until the next rain. Many have tested it. Too many. And not all who dream of drowning wake. Today, the wall is mostly left alone. The city avoids maintenance on that block. Too damp, they say. Foundations weak. And when storms roll in from the bay, the wiser folk close their shutters, light a candle, and do not walk near the docks. Because some walls are not meant to stand, and some bleed for a reason. Fact 5. The cursed room in the Red Keep. The Red Keep is vast. Corridors stretch like arteries across the hillside, feeding into chambers of every shape and purpose. There are rooms for councils, rooms for banquets, rooms where ravens rest, and rooms where kings have whispered secrets they would never speak aloud. But one room remains empty. Always. It lies 3 doors down from the old armory, just past a narrow gallery of faded tapestries. It has no name, no plaque. The stone around it seems colder than elsewhere, the torchlight dimmer. And though it bears no mark of importance, no lock or warning, everyone who works within the keep knows one simple rule: do not linger there. It is a small room, barely large enough for a bed and chair. The walls are made of red stone, like much of the keep, but here, the hue is deeper, duller, as though the stone itself were tired. Maids say the dust settles faster there, that cobwebs form overnight, that candles do not stay lit. The flame flickers wildly, even when the air is still. When asked, the stewards simply shake their heads. That room is not for use, they say. Best kept shut, and shut it remains. But the room was not always abandoned. There are records, spotty and yellowed, of it once serving as a sleeping chamber for minor lords visiting court. A convenient place for short stays. It was used for years until the first incident. A knight from House Deddings was the guest then. A good man by most accounts. Stern but just. He spent one night in the room, and by morning was found in the corridor, kneeling, eyes wide, hands bloodied from scratching at the walls. He had not screamed, had not fled. He simply broke. He would not speak afterward, only hummed the same lullaby over and over. He died 3 weeks later. Since then, the room has been used reluctantly, and never more than once per guest. There is always a reason, A feast that runs too long. A shortage of chambers. A mistake in the steward's records. And always, the result is the same. A merchant once awoke claiming his dead sister had stood at the foot of his bed, weeping. A handmaiden said she felt something breathing beneath the mattress. One maester, young and eager, slept there as an experiment. He recorded every detail. Wards, rituals, incantations for protection. By morning, his notes were gone, burned to ash, and he would only repeat a single sentence. She's still crying. The guards refused to stand post near the door for long. Not out of fear exactly, but discomfort. They say it's the sound. Sometimes, after midnight, one can hear something. Not loud, never loud, just the faintest sobbing, soft and slow, like a child hiding under a bed. Others describe it differently. A knock, a whisper, the dragging of something wet across stone, and always from within. But when the door is opened, there is nothing, only stillness, only the strange heaviness that clings to the air, like damp clothes in a storm. A story passed among the washerwomen says the room was once a nursery, that before Maegor's reign, it belonged to a lady-in-waiting who bore a child in secret, the child never seen. Some claim the babe died in that room. Others say it lived but never left. No records confirm this, but the rumors persist. One old cook, who worked in the keep under King Baelor, claimed she saw a child's handprint on the window once. Small, smudged. From the inside, the window had been locked for years. A raven keeper, half drunk, said he passed the room one stormy night and saw flickering candlelight beneath the door. But when he opened it, no flame, no heat, only a doll, hand-stitched, lying in the corner where no doll had been before. It was gone by morning. Some believe the room is cursed. Others say it is not the room itself, but what remains inside. The spirit, the sorrow, a memory too heavy to move on. There was talk once of sealing it off entirely, breaking the door, burning sage and salt. But nothing was done, because it is the Red Keep, and some stones are better left undisturbed. So it remains, the room with no name, the room no one stays in twice, the room where candles do not burn and sobs echo long after footsteps fade. And if you ever walk the halls of the Red Keep, and find yourself there by accident, 3 doors down from the old armory, where the air grows still, and the corridor quiet, just keep walking. And if you hear someone crying softly behind that door, do not open it, not for anything. Fact 6. The Ratcatcher's Secret Society. In a city as crowded, chaotic, and ancient as King's Landing, few trades are as thankless or as essential as that of the Ratcatcher. Most who serve in this humble role are forgotten by name, remembered only by smell and stain. They scurry beneath the city, in cellars and crawl spaces, carrying sacks and blunt tools, chasing vermin from grain stores and bakeries. They know every crack, every drain, every wall that should not echo but does. And some know far more. There is a whisper old as the cobbles, that among the ordinary ratcatchers of King's Landing, there exists a secret society, a quiet brotherhood, a guild within the guild. The Whiskered Men, that's what they're called. Never to their faces, never allowed. They are not trained in arms, nor robes, nor books, but they hold power all the same, the kind born from listening, from watching, from knowing. They say it began in the days of Visenya, that she paid certain ratcatchers in silver and wine, not just to kill vermin, but to overhear, to report, to silence, because no one notices a ratcatcher, not in the halls of the keep, not in the brothels of Flea Bottom, not in the basements where secrets ferment like old wine. And so, over generations, this hidden society grew, a web spun from shadows and quiet feet. A ratcatcher can go anywhere, through the back doors of taverns, under the Red Keep, into the very privy of the small council chamber. They hear what is not meant to be heard. They see what is not meant to be seen. And they remember. There are rules, of course. Always rules. The Whiskered Men, if they exist, speak to no one but each other. Their meetings are said to be held beneath the city, in a chamber accessible only through a tunnel hidden behind a false wall in a meat cellar off Candle Lane. 3 knocks, 2 whistles, 1 whispered name that opens the way. They wear no symbols, no uniforms, but there are signs to those who know them. A red string tied around the wrist, a left ear pierced, but not worn, a certain notch on a catching stick. These marks mean, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. Some claim the whiskered men have influenced history itself, that it was one of them who discovered the plot against Aegon II, that they knew where the wildfire was stored beneath the September, long before the explosion, that they helped smuggle Tyrion Lannister from the dungeons, not out of loyalty, but out of debt, a debt written in rat's teeth. The City Watch dismisses such claims. Tales for bored drunks, they say, but the gold cloaks never interfere with the ratcatchers, never stop them, never question them, and if a ratcatcher is found dead, which is rare, no one investigates, because everyone knows that would be a mistake. Even the Silent Sisters treat ratcatchers gently, wash their bodies with care, bury them with salt, and always, under their tongues, they find a stone, small, smooth, marked with 3 lines, a sign. Those who've studied the whiskered men say they value silence above all, that they collect secrets not for power, but for protection, that knowledge is their armor and memory their blade. They never forget. A brothel owner once tried to extort a ratcatcher, claimed he'd found him rifling through private rooms. The next day, the owner's books were empty, his name erased from the records, his best girl gone, his luck turned sour. By week's end, he vanished. All that remained was a single dead rat nailed to his door. A message. One night, a nobleman threw a chamber pot at a ratcatcher, laughed, mocked his smell, called him vermin in vermin's clothes. The following month, the noble's family was accused of treason. Documents surfaced. Witnesses came forward. Every door closed to them. No one knew where the evidence came from, but the ratcatcher had disappeared too. There are stories, of course more fanciful ones, that the whiskered men can speak to the rats, that they breed them to spy, that they whisper commands into their twitching ears and release them into walls where lords keep secrets, that when a rat stares too long at you, it is not the rat who's watching, it is someone else. A boy named Tim once claimed he was trained by them, said they brought him into a tunnel filled with candles that burned upside down, said they taught him a riddle, one he could never forget, even in sleep. He vanished the next week. Some say he left the city, others that he went deeper, too deep. The rats in King's Landing are not ordinary. They move in patterns, vanish in floods, reappear in swarms, and always near the places where history creaks. So next time you see a ratcatcher trudging past with sack and stick, do not laugh, do not sneer, and do not speak freely near him, because he may be listening. And if you wrong him, or speak what should not be spoken, you may find a message in your cupboard. A rat, perfectly preserved, mouth open, eyes full, and under its paw, a red thread. Fact 7. The gate that no one uses. There are many gates in King's Landing. Some swing wide to greet foreign envoys, with banners fluttering and trumpets blaring. Others open to merchants, carts groaning under the weight of spices, cloth, and copper. The river gate smells of fish, the King's Gate of polish and pride. Even the Lion Gate, heavy and often shut, sees the occasional noble procession. But then, there is the one no one uses. It stands at the southern edge of the city, pressed up against a slope where the land softens into marsh. The gate has no formal name. On most maps, it's not even drawn. Locals call it the Stone Gate, though it is made of wood ancient, gray with age, studded with thick, rusting nails. It is sealed, not locked, not barred, just shut. The hinges are stiff with disuse. Ivy clings to the arch, moss creeps along the lintel, and yet the gate remains whole, never rotting through, never vandalized. Not even the poorest children carve names into its surface. No one touches it. No one dares. It hasn't opened in living memory. Some say it leads to nothing. Just an old path, overgrown and forgotten, ending in reeds and bramble. Others believe it once led to a small hamlet, long since swallowed by time or tide. But even that cannot explain the unease, because no matter the weather, the season, the hour, the gate feels wrong. Too cold to the touch, too still. Even the birds avoid its ledge. When rain falls, it never seems to slick the wood. When the wind howls, it does not creak. In a city where everything moves, bends, and cracks, the stone gate simply endures, unchanged. A story passed among old guards tells of a man who tried to open it. The traveler, drunk or lost, no one remembers his name. He pressed his hands to the ancient doors, laughed, and gave them a push. They opened, just a sliver, but it was enough. They say what he saw beyond turned him silent, that he dropped to his knees, eyes wide, mouth slack, whispering the same word again and again. Empty. He never spoke again, not even to beg. He died 3 winters later, curled in a stable, still whispering. Empty. No one has opened the gate since. There are rumors, of course, that it's cursed, that a prince was buried just beyond it, exiled by his own blood, bound in chains forged with spells, that the land it faces was once part of the Black Forest, where the children of the forest sang songs to things even the first men feared. One tale, perhaps the oldest, claims the gate was built not to let things in, but to keep something out, or something in. They say when King Maegor commanded the wall's expansion, he insisted the gate be sealed, not locked, not dismantled, simply left to sleep. A symbol, he said, of restraint, but no decree survives to confirm it. Still, something strange happens near the gate. Animals shy from its shadow. Horses rear, dogs bark, then whimper. Even rats avoid it. A stable hand once tried to lead a mule cart past it. The mule froze, refused to move, and would not eat for 2 days after. The boy swore he heard something whisper from the wood. A dockhand claims he saw a light beyond the gate once, in the marsh fog. A soft glow, pulsing, like breath. He turned back instantly, said it smelled like snow and ash in the sea. All at once. The most unsettling story, though, belongs to a baker. Her daughter, 10 years old, vanished while playing near the slope. Gone, without a sound. Her scarf was found a day later, resting perfectly folded before the gate. Not a thread out of place. That was 20 years ago. The baker has since passed. But every year, on the girl's name day, someone leaves a single red ribbon tied to the gate's handle. No one sees who does it. Some have suggested tearing the gate down, removing the mystery, making it just another opening in the wall. But each time the idea is raised, someone protests. Quietly, a whisper in the council chamber, a new reason to delay, a minor safety concern, a funding dispute, as though the city itself resists. Today the stone gate still stands, silent, unmoved. Not even the youngest scamps dare play nearby. And when asked why, they shrug and say, because it's not for us. Perhaps they're right. Perhaps the gate leads to nothing. Or perhaps it waits for the right hands, for the wrong day, for the moment the wind shifts just enough to make it whisper again. And if you ever find yourself walking the southern edge of King's Landing, and the mist curls just so, and the light slants strange on the stones, and you hear the sound of wood groaning open, walk the other way, quietly, don't look back. Some gates are better left closed. Fact 8. The smell of ash that lingers in the air. In King's Landing, the seasons bring many scents. Spring offers wild garlic and crushed blossoms near the riverbanks. Summer carries the warm tang of sweat, horse dung, and sun-baked stone. In autumn, the air is thick with roasted chestnuts and cider, and winter, when it comes, smells faintly of iron and smoke. But there is one scent that does not belong to any season. The smell of ash comes without warning, without fire. A sudden whiff on a still day, a dry sting in the back of the throat, sometimes faint, like burned parchment. other times thick and choking, as if a blaze had just been extinguished. But there is no smoke, no fire, no embers glowing in the distance, just the ash and the knowing. Those who've lived long in the city recognize it. It's old, the butchers say, not from today's flames. It's from the bad fires, say the bakers, nodding solemnly. Everyone knows what they mean. The great September of Baylor, when it vanished in a pillar of green flame and silence. The wildfire that roared through the streets during the sack of the city. The dragon's breath, long before that. In the time of Rhaenys and her black-winged mount. Too many fires, too many ghosts, and somehow the ash remains. Maesters have no explanation. Particles in the air, they say. Residual matter trapped in the stone. But even they frown when it happens in winter, after weeks of clean sky and no torch lit. A bard once wrote that the smell of ash is the memory of fire. Others believe differently. They say it's a warning, that when the ash returns, something is stirring beneath the city. Old anger, old flame, that King's Landing is built not just on stone and blood, but on smoke. That each layer of the city hides a deeper burn, a deeper scar. There are streets where the scent is strongest. The ruined square where the September once stood. The charred remains of Mater's old barracks, untouched since Aegon III's time. The old bell foundry, long abandoned, where no echo dares linger. And of course, the alley behind the Red Keep where once a dragon fed. There, the scent is constant, even when the air is still, even when the snow falls, especially when it rains. Some say the ash is not just a scent, but a signal, that it carries memories, that those who breathe it too deeply dream of fire, wake with dry tongues and a scream caught behind their teeth. A washerwoman named Brella claimed the ash spoke to her, whispered names she did not know. One night, after the smell filled her room, she woke to find a message scrawled in soot upon her wall. I remember. She moved to Old Town the next day. Others say the ash chooses, that it clings to those who've wronged the city, that it follows kings who lie, lords who cheat, and traitors who smile, that no matter how many baths they take, how many perfumes they pour, the scent remains. One noble was said to reek of it after a vote in the small council. He denied nothing, yet 3 days later, he leapt from a tower, eyes red, claiming he saw smoke pouring from the mouths of the statues. But no one else smelled anything. There is an older story, nearly forgotten, of a boy born with hair like soot and eyes like cold coals. He never cried, never blinked, and wherever he walked, the scent of ash followed. Filled cellars, kitchens, wells. Even when he left the room, he vanished during a storm. Some say the wind took him. Others say the fire did. There are those who collect the ash, the strange few, mostly quiet women with veiled eyes, and maesters too old to speak. They gather it in little jars, scrape it from windowsills, trap it in cloth. For study, they say, but they never share their findings. One man, a foreign alchemist, claimed the ash was not ash at all, but the dust of time made physical. That King's Landing burns, always, across its many lives, and that the smell is the echo of what once was, and will be again. He disappeared shortly after, his room left cold, his books untouched, but the smell lingered for days. No one stays in that inn anymore, even now if you walk the streets at dusk, and the wind shifts just so, you might catch it. That dry, gray breath, that whisper of fire long dead. It will vanish before you can place it, but it was there, and maybe, just maybe, it always will be, because in a city built on conquest, where dragons once ruled, and fire was law, the ash never really goes away. It only waits. Fact 9. The steps that echo differently at night. In the daytime, King's Landing is a city of noise. Horses clatter, bells chime, street criers shout half-truths in full voice. But at night, when the lanterns dim and even the most stubborn taverns grow quiet, the city listens. And in that stillness, something changes. The guards of the city watch, those few with years of loyal service and no desire for promotion, speak of it in hushed tones. The steps, they say, don't sound the same after midnight. Not everywhere, just certain places. The narrow stair behind the great September's ruins. The winding steps up the East Tower. The short, uneven stair near the back gate of the Red Keep. They echo differently. Some guards say the sound deepens. A hollow, drawn-out echo, like boots landing in a vast hall rather than a stone stair. Others claim it sharpens. The tap of heel on stone becoming a high, stinging ring, like glass shattering far away. A few swear they hear more than just their own footfalls. The second step, lighter, lagging just behind, always just behind. The first to report it was a watchman named Selwyn. Quiet, sober, loyal. He walked the East Tower stairs each night, knew them by rhythm like a song. One night he stopped halfway. The echo behind him didn't. He turned. Nothing. He waited. Silence. He took another step. So did the echo. He requested a new route the next morning. Never walked that tower again. Others dismissed it, until it happened again and again. Soon a pattern emerged. Always after midnight. Always on stairs. Always when alone. The maesters claimed it was fatigue. Hallucinations from long hours and heavy armor. But the guards began to test it. They walked in pairs. The echoes stayed normal. They returned alone. The echoes twisted. One young recruit tried to defy it. Stomped up and down a haunted stair for 3 nights, laughing. On the 4th night, his partner found him seated on the lowest step. Silent, boots off, feet bare. He wouldn't wear shoes again. Said he couldn't bear the sound. He now patrols the dungeons, the quietest halls in the keep. Some guards mark the echoing stairs with chalk. Others leave offerings, a bit of bread, a coin, a drop of wine. Tiny gestures to whatever walks beside them in shadow. They say it helps. Sometimes. One sergeant, old and bitter, claimed he once spoke to the echo. Whispered, "Who are you?" into the stairwell after the 3rd bell. He heard a whisper in return. His name. Nothing more. He never repeated what happened next. But he left the city watch within the month. Moved north. Bought a cabin in the woods. No stairs at all. There's an old belief, never written, only told, that each stair in the Red Keep remembers every foot that has touched it. That stone listens, learns, and after a time, it begins to answer back. Some say the echoes are not echoes at all, but memories, steps trapped in the stone, repeating their path, long after the feet that made them have turned to dust. Others believe something walks the stairs only when the city sleeps. A shadow, a listener, a judge. They say it counts every footfall, weighs every pause, and remembers who faltered. That if your echo sounds different, it's because someone else is walking your path with you. A whisper-thin girl named Tessa, who helped sweep the keep's halls, once followed her echo down a stair that didn't exist by day, said it led to a door with no handle and no hinges. The next morning, she was found at her post, asleep on her feet, and barefoot. Some say the echo is tied to the 7, that each stair holds one voice, and when the echoes twist, it's because the stranger is near. But others say it's older than the faith, older than the keep, older than the city, that when the moon is full and the bells have stopped, the stone reveals what it has always known. You are not walking alone. So next time you hear footsteps echo in the dark, pause, listen, count them, and if one does not belong to you, do not turn around. Just keep walking, quietly. The stone is listening. Fact 10. The tower that casts no shadow at dusk. There is a tower in King's Landing that watches the sun. It rises from the older part of the Red Keep, not far from the rookery, with walls faded red and windows shaped like eyes. By all appearances, it is an ordinary watchtower, tall, square, with a crooked weather vane that creaks when the wind turns sour. But at dusk, it casts no shadow. Not always, not every evening, only on certain days, when the sky burns orange and the light seems to come from everywhere at once. The tower disappears. Its base remains. The stone is real. Guards still walk past it. The birds still rest upon its ledges. But look to the ground, to the courtyard below. and you will see only the other towers stretching long and soft behind them. The shadow of the tower of the rookery, of the maester's tower, even the parapets of the great hall. But not this one, no matter the angle, no matter how you squint or shift or crane your neck. It simply refuses. Maesters have offered explanations. Light refraction, the angle of the hill, an illusion caused by architectural design. But no explanation holds when the sun dips low and the stone still drinks all light. Some call it the Hollow Watch, others the Twilight Spire, but no one enters it after dusk. There's an old story that the tower once belonged to a forgotten order. Silent sentinels sworn to never speak nor sleep. They watched the sea by day, and something else by night, something no one remembers. Their names were lost in fire, their records gone, but the tower remains, as do the rumors. A painter once tried to capture it in oils, hoping to win favor at court. He studied the tower each evening, waiting for the moment of no shadow. When it came, he painted furiously. The next morning, his canvas was blank. Not just empty, white, but warped, burned at the edges, as though whatever he tried to capture refused. He left the city that same week, became a farmer, they say, refused to draw again. A scribe claimed he found a single page in an old tome, referencing the tower's foundation. It spoke of a place where the sun will not fall, of stone unbending beneath the eye of fire. But the page was torn. No name, no author, no date. He still keeps the scrap, hidden beneath his floorboards. Some believe the tower is a doorway, that at dusk, when its shadow should fall but doesn't, it opens just slightly to something else. Not a place, not a time, but a silence, a stillness, that those who step inside at just the wrong moment do not return. Others say it is not the tower that changes, but the world around it. That when dusk comes, the light becomes thinner, and for a breath, the tower is no longer here, but somewhere else, standing still while the world turns. A fixed point in a shifting map. One night, half drunk and daring, swore he stood in its doorway as the sun dipped low. He felt nothing, then cold, then something passed behind him. He turned. No one. He has not returned to the keep since. And then there are the birds. Crows roost on many towers. On this one too, but only by day. As soon as the sky shifts, when the last sliver of gold touches the stones, they leave. All of them, at once, not in panic, not in flight, just gone. And if you watch the ledges closely as the sun vanishes, you may see shapes there. Not birds, not people. Shapes that move like memory, that fade before you can look directly. The guards do not speak of them. The oldest tale, passed down by kitchen hands and chimney sweeps, claims the tower was never meant to stand in light at all, that it was built in shadow for shadow, that the man who laid its first stone died before he finished speaking the curse. A curse not of pain or flame, but of absence, of forgetting, that the tower does not cast a shadow, because it has none, because it already gave it away, and what has no shadow cannot be trusted. So if you find yourself near the red keep, and the sun begins to fall, and the sky turns bronze and soft, and you see the tower with no shadow, do not linger, do not knock, and above all, do not step inside, because not everything that vanishes with the light is gone. Some things wait, just beyond the hour, when even the sun forgets to look. Fact 11. The forgotten prisoners beneath the dungeons. Beneath the red keep, deeper than the wine cellars, deeper than the crypts, lie the dungeons. And beneath the dungeons lie the forgotten. The black cells are infamous, damp, narrow, cruel. Most who enter do not return. They are carved from the oldest stone, untouched by sun or mercy. But there are other cells, deeper still, that no one speaks of in official records. Cells with no torches, no bars, only stone and silence. They were once used, they say, during the reign of Maegor, or perhaps even earlier, when dragons ruled from shadowed halls and blood was spilled in ceremony. They were not meant to hold men for justice, but for secrecy. Some were traitors, some were lovers, Some were simply inconvenient. No names, no trials, no doors even, just walls and darkness. A few aging servants remember the stories, how certain prisoners were led into the dark not by guards, but by silent men in robes, how their screams never echoed back, and how sometimes soft voices can still be heard in the depths, speaking a tongue no one understands. The layout of these cells is not written. Even the jailers whisper about them only in drink, but they exist. One old turnkey, long since retired, claimed he once stumbled upon a sealed arch behind a collapsed passage. The stone was smoother, blacker, warm to the touch. He heard nothing at first, then a faint knock, rhythmic, deliberate. He fled, never returned, swore off wine and kept to his bed. But not all stay away. Some seek these cells, whisper of treasures buried with traitors, scrolls sealed away with heretics. Even one of the last Targaryens, imprisoned so that their very name would fade. None have found proof, only stories and silence. One apprentice maester, braver than wise, ventured too far down a disused stairwell. He returned 3 days later, barefoot, with blood on his hands and a single phrase repeated over and over. They're still praying. He left the citadel, lives alone now near the sea. The strangest thing, perhaps, is what the stone remembers. For even today, on nights when the moon is thin and the torches burn low, guards claim they hear chains rattle far below. Not the clank of metal on stone, but the soft, careful jingle of someone still moving, still bound. One story tells of a cell that has no door, only a narrow gap in the wall where food was once passed. The servant assigned to it never saw the prisoner, only a hand, pale and scarred, reaching into the light. He left the tray, took the old one away, for years. Then one day no hand reached out, but the food was gone. The cell remains sealed, and that sometimes, if you listen very carefully at the wall, you can hear breathing, faint, steady, alive. Another tale speaks of a boy locked away for speaking a prophecy. He named 3 deaths before they happened. A 4th was never heard, his tongue removed before he could say it. They placed him in the lowest cell, but still the deaths came. The last was his own. Yet each year, on the date he was taken below, the crows gather at the Red Keep's northern tower, circling, crying, as if called. Some say the boy's whisper still lingers, waiting to be heard. There is an old superstition among the night jailers. Never count the cells aloud. The deeper levels are numbered strangely. Some skip, some repeat. One number, 17, appears 3 times, carved in different hands. And when the guards walk the lower levels, they do so in silence, because names echo, and the walls remember. In recent years, efforts to map the lowest levels were abandoned. Lanterns would not stay lit. Chalk marks vanished. One scribe fell ill for a month after visiting. Said he dreamed of eyes watching him from within the stone. No one volunteers for deep detail now, and if someone disappears near the dungeon stairs, no search is made, because everyone knows not all prisoners were meant to be freed, and not all cells were meant to be opened. So if ever you walk the halls beneath the Red Keep, and find yourself on a stair you do not recognize, and the air grows cold, and the silence deepens, turn back, quickly, do not call out, and if you hear someone whisper your name, do not answer. Fact 12. The market stall that no one remembers owning. Every morning in King's Landing, the markets awaken. Canvas flaps rise, crates clatter open. The smell of cinnamon, fish, and dust fills the air. The shouts begin, soft at first, then louder, as merchants compete for attention, coin, and a brief moment of relevance. But among the stalls of the main square, beyond the spice sellers and bread cutters, stands a small cart, modest, weathered, tucked beside a crumbling stone wall. It appears and disappears. No one sets it up. No one takes it down. It is simply there, always in the same place. The cart is narrow with dark wood faded to gray. Its wheels are intact, though never seen to turn. A faded canopy hangs above, stitched with thread that glimmers faintly, though no one can say what color it truly is. Some say silver, others green. Some see no shimmer at all. And upon the cart are objects, not always the same. Sometimes it displays small glass bottles, each filled with strange, shifting sand. Other days it's delicate metal tools, too fine for kitchen work, too complex for a smith's forge. Once it offered books with no titles, pages blank until touched. Another time only a single item sat there. A mask, half smiling, half weeping. People stop. They look. Sometimes they reach for the objects, and sometimes they buy, but no one remembers paying. A merchant named Illyra once purchased a spool of thread from the stall, or so she believed. It was strong, golden, and never ran out. She used it to mend cloaks, curtains, sails. When asked where she got it, she paused. Couldn't say. Couldn't even remember what the seller looked like. Another man, a guardsman, claimed he bought a small compass from the stall, but it didn't point north, pointed toward home, even when home changed. When he left the city on assignment, it spun wildly, as though confused. When he returned, it settled. He keeps it in a box now, but still it spins on certain nights, and when he looks at it, he dreams of places he's never seen. Most curious of all is that no one owns the cart. Not the city, not the market guilds, not any known trader or noble house. When asked, other merchants shrug. It's always been there, they say. Sometimes it's not. Then it is again. Some claim the cart only appears when the mist rolls in from the bay. Others believe it's tied to certain names, that if someone with a lost ancestor walks by, the cart will appear. That it's searching for something, or someone. There are rules whispered by those who've encountered it. Never ask for a discount. Never offer gold. The stall never accepts it. And never, ever take without permission. One thief, a boy no older than 12, snatched a ring from the cart and ran. He vanished into the alleys, laughing. He was never seen again. But days later, a ring appeared on the cart once more. Same shape, same shimmer, waiting. The watchman steered clear of the stall, not from fear, but unease. One captain, older and wise, says the cart is not from here, not from anywhere really, just passing through. But passing through what, he never says. A girl named Sarah once spent 3 mornings at the stall. She never spoke, just watched. On the 4th day, a man in a gray cloak stood behind the cart. He said nothing. She approached. Later, she told her mother she had asked for something simple, a voice for her dreams. That night, she began talking in her sleep, in a tongue no one knew. She still does, but only when it rains. The cart vanishes sometimes, for days, for weeks, but it always returns. Sometimes in the morning mist, sometimes just after the sun has set. Always quiet, always waiting, and no one knows who owns it, because no one remembers seeing it arrive. So if you ever find yourself in the King's Market, and you notice a small cart you're sure wasn't there a moment before, take care. Look if you like, but don't linger too long. And if the seller smiles at you, though you may never be able to describe their face, ask yourself, what did you lose that the cart has found? And what will you give to hold it again? Fact 13. The cat that knows too much. In every city there are cats. They slip through cracks, lounge on rooftops, and vanish through alleys no man could follow. But in King's Landing, there is one cat who is not like the others. They call him Sir Whiskers, a jest at first, a name whispered by bored squires and giggling kitchen hands. But over time, the name stuck, and the stories followed, because this cat appears everywhere. In the Red Keep, in the September ruins, on the city walls at dawn, inside the chambers of lords who swore they'd locked every door. Black as coal, eyes like polished amber, not gold, not yellow, amber, deep and strange as though they've seen too much, and remember all of it. No one knows where he came from. He simply was, always watching, always just beyond reach. Old RYK, the rat catcher, claims he saw Ser Whiskers slip between the stones of the throne room, not around them, between them, as if the cat became shadow, then returned to fur and bone on the other side. Septa once caught him resting atop the altar, just staring. She swears he didn't blink, that when she stepped forward, the candles around her all guttered out, though there was no wind. She never entered the chapel again. One maester believed the cat to be a spy, not for a man, but for the city itself. He kept a journal of sightings, nearly 100 entries. Each time Ser Whiskers appeared, something happened. A meeting cut short, a lie revealed, a secret exposed. Coincidences, perhaps, until the maester died. Fell from a stairwell in the rookery, alone. His last entry. He was listening. I'm sure of it. Others think the cat is a ghost, a remnant of something older. There is a tale of a boy king, long forgotten, who loved a cat with black fur and clever eyes. When the boy died, some say he whispered his last wish not to his mother, but to the cat. And the cat stayed. That was over 100 years ago, and still he walks the halls. A baker's boy once followed Ser Whiskers from Flea Bottom all the way to the Red Keep. The cat never ran, just paused, looked back, and walked on. The boy swore he passed 6 guards unnoticed, climbed stairs he didn't know existed. He reached a chamber with a single window and no door. The cat was gone. So was the boy. He returned a day later, older, as too quiet. He would never say what he saw. Some believe the cat speaks, not aloud, but in dreams, that those who meet his gaze dream of fire, or falling, or flying, that he whispers things they forget upon waking, but feel all the same. A woman claimed the cat saved her life. She was about to enter a house that later collapsed, but Ser Whiskers appeared on the doorstep, hissed once, and stared until she turned away. She still leaves out a saucer of cream every full moon. He never drinks it, but it's always emptied by morning. Children love him, or fear him, never both. They say he knows your secrets, that if you tell a lie near him, he'll scratch your door at night. Once for yes, twice for no, 3 times. No child has heard 3. There are drawings of him, carved into the underside of old furniture. Always the same, black, sleek, with wide amber eyes, and a crown, not on his head, at his feet, as if he's watching over it, or waiting. Some whisper he's a green seer, others a skin changer, forgotten by time. A few claim he's no cat at all, just wearing the shape, a servant of the old gods, or something older, but most simply nod when they see him. They do not chew, they do not chase, they let him pass, because whatever Ser Whiskers is, he has lived here longer than any of them, and he will remain. When the thrones fall, and the towers crumble, and the last crown sinks into the black water, he will be there, perched in the highest window, watching, waiting, purring softly, because he knows. He always has. Fact 14. The whispers from Blackwater Bay. By day, Blackwater Bay glistens. The tide rolls in smooth and strong. Ships arrive and depart, their sails like clouds, their hulls creaking with stories yet untold. The water smells of salt, tar, fish, and sometimes fire. But by night, when the moon floats high and silver over the rippling dark, the bay begins to whisper. Not the usual hush of waves against stone, not the wind moaning through ropes and sails. Something else, something spoken. Fishermen hear it first. Not all. Only those who cast their nets near the old rocks, where the shadow of Dragonstone lingers across the water. They pause, they listen, and their eyes go distant. They're talking again, they say, soft, afraid, certain. No one agrees on what is said. One man hears laughter, gentle, warm, like old friends reunited. Another hears weeping, low and desperate, the sound of someone searching for a name long forgotten. A boy once claimed he heard singing, a lullaby, one his mother never taught him, but which made him cry all the same. The whispers only come when the tide is high and the stars are clear. They vanish in storms. They vanish when listened to too closely, but they return. Always. Some believe it's just wind across the stone, a trick of air and water, but the voices are too clear, too deliberate. One night, a sailor leaned over the edge of his skiff and whispered back. He was alone, but his lantern flickered, then answered, with a single word, not in the common tongue. Something older. He does not repeat it. He sold his boat, never sailed again. There are tales of ships passing through the whispering zone vanishing. Not in storms, not to pirates, just gone. No wreckage, no cries, no foam on the tide, just silence. And then, the whispers grow louder the following night, as if remembering. There is an old woman who lives by the shore. She lays stones in patterns each night. She says it keeps the voices away from her dreams. One night she forgot. She woke with her door open, and seaweed in her bed. She speaks little now, but she watches the bay with eyes too wide for sleep. Some say the whispers are from those who died in the waters, that every voice is a memory, of soldiers pulled down by chains, of sailors swallowed by flame, of secrets lost in the depths. Others say it is older, that the bay was not always water, that once it was a place of sacrifice, and the stones remember, and the sea listens. A maester once tried to record the whispers. He built a device, copper tubes, sensitive horns, scribes on duty all night. But the parchment caught fire. No one knows how. He left the city within the week. Now he writes only about farming. Some priests believe the whispers are a test, that the drowned god stirs beneath the bay, not dead, only dreaming. And when his voice rises, only the faithful should listen. One priest walked into the surf at dusk. He was smiling. He did not return. They say the tide pulled back as he walked, as if inviting, as if waiting. Children are warned to stay clear of the shore at night, but some go anyway, and some return changed. A girl of 10 came home with sand in her ears and a story of voices inside the waves. She speaks in rhyme now, even in sleep. Her father weeps. He says it's not her voice anymore, just her mouth. Others do not return at all. The watch patrols the docks more often now, but they too avoid the edge, especially when the night is clear, especially when the water is still, because that's when the voices come loudest. Not screaming, not angry, just calling, inviting, remembering. So if you find yourself near the bay on a quiet night, and the moon is high, and the water lies flat as black glass, and you hear your name in the wind, do not answer, do not lean close, and whatever you do, do not speak back, because once you do, the sea will never forget you, and neither will the whispers. Fact 15. The gatekeeper who never blinks. At the eastern edge of King's Landing, near a seldom-used gate known as the Maiden's Arch, stands a guard, old, stooped, wrapped in layers too thick for the season. He wears the uniform of the city watch, though it's outdated by at least 2 kings. The sigil is faded, the mail rusted, the boots too stiff to move in. But he stands, always, rain or shine, winter or summer, he stands, and he never blinks, not once, not ever. Children dare one another to watch him, to stare at his eyes, wide and unflinching. Some manage a few minutes before looking away. Others swear they feel cold just standing near him, as though his stillness draws the warmth out of the air. He does not speak, not unless spoken to, and even then, rarely. Most who try receive only a nod, a twitch of the brow, a glance that seems to look through, not at. But some say he answers, softly, strangely, as if recalling something not from memory, but from a script written in another age. One traveler asked his name. The answer, "I remember too many." Another asked how long he had served. He replied, "Longer than the walls have held." The city watch denies he exists. There's no post at the Maiden's Arch, they insist. No records of a guard assigned. But he is there, and has been for as long as anyone can remember. The fishmongers say he was there when they were children. The apothecary swears her grandmother mentioned him. A drunkard once claimed his father saw him during the reign of Aegon IV. Always the same, never aged, never absent, never blinking. An old tale says he was once a knight, Ser Talwyn of Harlaw, who failed to protect a princess. She died in his care, and he took a vow to never rest again until he redeemed her name. Another says he's not a man at all, that he is a statue, enchanted by the last of the dragon-blooded sorcerers, made flesh only between sunset and sunrise. One septon believes the gatekeeper is penance given form, a soul so heavy with guilt it was anchored to a post, forever watching the gate that let something terrible in. But no story can explain what happens when someone tries to remove him. Twice, efforts were made. Once by a new commander of the watch, eager to tidy the records, and once by a wealthy merchant seeking to claim the gate as private entry. Both failed, not from resistance, but from strangeness. The first man sent to speak with the gatekeeper returned pale, shaking, lips sealed. He took holy vows the next day and left the city. The second man never found the guard at all, only an empty space, where his own shadow refused to fall. He sold his estate and moved inland. No one else has tried, and so he remains, watching, silent, never sitting, never eating, never blinking. A woman who lives nearby swears that on nights when the wind howls from the east, the guard hums, a low, slow sound, a lullaby she thinks, though no one can place the tune. Another neighbor believes he moves, just slightly, a shift of the head, a step forward, but only when no one is looking. She placed a bell near his post once. It rang at midnight, 3 times, though the air was still, though no one had passed. The bell is gone now, removed, buried, forgotten. The gate itself is rarely used. It leads to a steep path, half swallowed by weeds and stone. Some say it once opened to a noble estate, now lost to ruin. Others believe it led to the sea, before the tides changed. But the gate remains, and he guards it, and no one knows why. So if you walk the eastern edge of King's Landing, and pass a gate you don't remember seeing before, and there stands a man, silent, unmoving, and he meets your eyes, don't look away, don't blink, and whatever you do, don't ask him what he's waiting for, because he just might tell you. Fact 16. The alley that grows narrower each year. King's Landing is a city of corners. Streets tangle like knots. Paths twist into each other. Stone bleeds into mud. And in the heart of the city, where old maps blur and even the rats seem lost, lies a narrow alley. It has no proper name, but those who know it call it Squeeze-Gut Lane. A thin vein of passage between 2 forgotten buildings, barely wide enough for a man to pass through sideways, and growing thinner every year. It starts like this. Someone tries to take a shortcut. A baker, perhaps, or a courier, trying to shave a moment from their morning run. They enter the alley without thought. It's quiet, a sliver of shadow between stone, and halfway through, they realize it's tighter than before. Walls pressing in, breath growing shallow, shoulders brushing rough brick that wasn't so close the year before. Some turn back, others push forward. Those who reach the end usually laugh at first. They swear it's nonsense, blame their own size, blame time, blame the city's chaos. But then, they go back, and find the alley narrower still. A boy named Jaren swore he could no longer fit through it at all. Just a year prior, he ran deliveries there daily. Now, not even sideways. He returned the next day with friends, measured the width in boot lengths, 2 at the entrance, 1.5 at the middle, 1 at the end. One of the boys reached out to touch the wall and yelped, said it was warm, said it pulsed, like breath. They did not return. There are whispers, of course, that the buildings on either side were cursed, that once a forbidden love was sealed between those walls. A lord's daughter and a sellsword, buried alive to protect a family's name, that the alley mourns them, closes in year by year like a wound trying to forget. Others say something lives in the cracks. Not a rat, not a ghost, something else. A seam of the city that hungers. A thief named Pell tried to sleep there once, claiming it was hidden. perfect for escape. He awoke gasping, bruised, said the walls moved in his dreams, tried to fold him like parchment. He sleeps near the gates now, in the open. Always, old Doma, a washerwoman with more teeth than words, swears she heard voices from the alley once. Not speech, not song, just murmurs, rhythmic, almost like breathing. She walks blocks out of her way now to avoid it. And she's not alone. The city's animals avoid it too. Cats will not chase rats into it. Birds will not perch above it. Even the insects seem to veer away, as if the very scent of the place is wrong. There was an attempt once to widen the alley. A mason guild, hired by a rich merchant whose son got stuck in the narrow bend. They brought tools, chalk, men strong and steady. They left within the hour. No explanation, no payment taken. The stone, they said, was wrong. Too dense, too alive. One muttered something about hearing his own heartbeat in the wall. He retired the next day. There are stories, quiet ones, of people who entered the alley and never came out. One step too deep, one breath too slow, and the walls remembered. No cry, no trace, only silence, and a brick that wasn't there before. A historian once mapped every alley in the city. Squeezegut Lane was on his earliest maps, then smaller, then gone. He wrote a note beside the final blank space. Still there, but hiding. Some believe the alley is a test, a path for the guilty, that if you carry shame, the walls know, that the tighter the squeeze, the heavier your secrets. Others think it's not an alley at all, but a scar, from a time when something tried to split the city, and almost succeeded, that the walls are trying to heal, to seal, and that those who walk there now walk the edge of that old wound. So if ever you find yourself near Tannery Row, and you see a shadow between two leaning buildings, and the air smells like dust and damp paper, take a breath, measure your width, and ask yourself, what have I hidden? Because the alley remembers, and it is growing narrow, just for you. Fact 17. The ghostly lantern lights on the walls. When dawn breaks over King's Landing, the city wakes slowly. Fog drapes the rooftops. The cobblestones glisten with dew. Carts creak into motion. And across the outer walls, tiny lights begin to fade. Not the torches of guards. Not the candles of early risers. Lanterns, pale, flickering, unheld. They drift along the battlements, one by one. Faint globes of yellow-white, like will-o'-the-wisps caught in an old soldier's dream. They appear just before first light, no earlier, no later, and vanish the moment the sun clears the horizon. Guards stationed along the walls have seen them for generations, but few talk about it. Those who do so quietly. It's the watchers, they say, the ones who never left. At first glance, the lights could be dismissed as tricks of the mist, reflections from distant fires perhaps, or torchlight diffused through fog. But they move with purpose. They glide in straight lines, stop suddenly, hover, change direction. One might pause above a crumbled stone gap in the western wall, as though inspecting it. Another might pace slowly back and forth along the old tower base, where a traitor was once hanged. They do not flicker like flames. They do not cast shadows, and no hand holds them. A veteran guard named Rundell swore he watched one for nearly 10 minutes. It hovered beside him, no sound, no heat, and then passed through the crenel beside his post. He felt nothing, but for the rest of the week, wherever he stood, animals would not come near. He resigned within the month. The oldest story claims the lanterns are not lights at all, but memories, that each one marks the final step of a soul who died watching the wall. A guard, a knight, a boy with a spear and hope in his chest, and that the lanterns walk their last patrol over and over until dawn sets them free. The Citadel dismisses such tales, but even the maesters will not stand the wall at that hour, especially not on the northern stretch where the lanterns move the slowest. A scribe once tried to map their paths. He sat for weeks with parchment and ink, recording the moments each light appeared, moved, vanished. What he found was pattern. Each light followed a specific route, measured, repeating, never crossing, never deviating, as though assigned, as though obeying a schedule. But the schedule matched nothing in the current guard roster. Nothing recent, not even royal funeral records. The pattern, he discovered, matched an old formation used during the reign of Baelor the Blessed, a style of wall patrol that was abolished over 100 years ago. He never published the findings. His notes were later found scorched, as though touched by flame. There are other stories, too, of a light that entered a tower and never came out, of a light that hovered outside a widow's window the night before her son fell in battle, of a light that stopped and pulsed the moment a gatekeeper died. Some believe the lights are drawn to grief, that they come when a watchman weeps in silence, that they comfort him, or witness him, or mark him. Others believe they warn, that when too many lights appear in one place, something is coming. A siege, a fire, a betrayal. The week before the wildfire took the September of Baelor, more than a dozen lanterns were seen circling the city's south wall. One guard watched them the entire hour. He quit the next day. When asked why, he said only, they were looking in. Children make games of the lights now. They rise early, hoping to glimpse one through the mist. Some claim they saw faces in the glow. Not human, not cruel, but tired, as if the lights themselves were carrying a burden, or waiting. One girl swore she saw her grandfather's silhouette inside the glow. He had died years before, sword in hand, on that very wall. She visits each month now, just before dawn, with a small lantern of her own. Hers never lights, but she swears she sees his. Some believe the lanterns are drawn to names, that if you whisper the name of someone lost while standing on the wall, one of the lights will come. Not fast, not bright, but steady, and that it will stop in front of you and listen, and when it vanishes, it carries your words with it. To where? No one knows, but the fog seems lighter afterward. Today, the guards no longer question the lights. They log them in a separate book. Not official, not sanctioned, but kept, passed hand to hand. Scene 3, western flank. All slow. One at North Spur stopped for 4 minutes. None last night. Too much wind. A quiet code. A respectful record. Because the lights are not feared, only felt. So if you ever find yourself walking the walls of King's Landing at the edge of morning, and the air smells like stone and mist, and the light is just beginning to think about returning, look to the fog. And if you see a lantern gliding where no hand holds it, do not follow, do not speak, just watch. And remember, someone else is still walking, and they have not forgotten the city. Fact 18. The night when all the dogs howled at once. There are many nights in King's Landing. Some are filled with revelry, the laughter of inns, the crackle of fires, the clatter of dice. Others are heavy with silence, broken only by the distant clang of boots on cobblestone or the hush of waves against the docks. But there is one night that no one forgets. The night the dogs howled. All of them, at once. It began just after moonrise. A soft sound at first. One hound in Flea Bottom, old and half-blind, lifted his snout and let out a low, mournful cry. Then another joined from across the Blackwater rush. Then more, and more. Within minutes, the city was surrounded. Not barking, not yelping, howling. Long, trembling notes that filled every street and alley, from the mongrels in the markets to the hounds in noble kennels. Even the little lapdogs in velvet cushions. All raised their voices in unison. People emerged from homes, confused. Windows opened, heads tilted, and then the air shifted. Something beneath the sound, something old, a vibration in the stones, a weight in the chest. Not fear, exactly, but memory. Even the drunks stopped singing. The watchmen paused their rounds. Children cried, not from the noise, but from something else. A knowing. The maesters offered no answers. They searched for signs, moon phase, tides, celestial alignments. Nothing unusual. The weather was calm, the sky clear. No eclipses, no fire, no blood, just the howling. It lasted nearly an hour, and then, as one They stopped. Not in pieces. Not gradually. All at once. Silence fell like a curtain. Thick. Unnatural. For a long moment, even the city held its breath. And then life returned. Slowly. Nervously. But no one forgot. Some claim it was a signal that something passed through the city that night. Something not meant to be seen. That the dogs, sensitive, ancient in their instincts, felt it first. Others say it was mourning. That something died. Not a person. Not a beast. But something larger. The spirit. Presence. The last ember of something lost. And the dogs sang it away. The Septon believed it was the stranger, walking the streets in silence. That every canine soul, loyal and honest, recognized death's footsteps and called out in greeting or warning. One old woman whispered that it was the beginning of a curse. That whenever the dogs howl again, the city will change, fall, burn, fade. But they haven't howled like that since. Not all at once, not together, and still people wait, watch, listen. A kennel master near the Mudgate says his dogs grow restless each year on the anniversary. They pace, they whine, but they do not howl. Not yet. A bard wrote a song about it once, soft strings and low notes. He played it only once in the market square. Every animal nearby fell silent, then fled. The bard doesn't play anymore. There are those who recorded the event. Cages yellowing in old towers. Notations in the margins of guard logs. Scribbled notes in ledgers beside entries of fish sales and roof repairs. Dogs howling. 47 counted. Unusual sound. Deep, echoing. No violence reported, but felt uneasy, and always scrawled in smaller script. None slept that night, because that was the other thing. No one dreamed. No one tossed or turned or murmured in their sleep. They lay still, eyes wide, even after the howling stopped, as though something remained, watching, waiting, listening, and perhaps it still does. So if one night you find yourself beneath the stars of King's Landing, and the dogs begin to lift their heads, one by one, in perfect, mournful unison, stop what you are doing. Do not speak. Do not move. Listen, and ask yourself, what has returned? And what, if anything, is about to begin? So many stories, drifting through the streets of King's Landing, lost in time, like fog lifting with the dawn. You've walked the hidden paths beneath the Red Keep, stood beneath towers without shadows, heard bells ring with no wind, and followed the echoes of steps no longer your own. You've seen the lights that float with memory, the alley that narrows with regret, the whispering waves, and the silence that follows 1,000 howls. They are only tales, perhaps, or perhaps they are something more. Remnants, warnings, dreams. And now, as your breathing slows and your body grows heavier, let sleep find you and carry you far from the waking world to a place where shadows speak softly and even the stones remember your name. The distant ring of a bell, soft footsteps fading down a hallway, and the quiet hum of the city falling asleep with you. Good night.